Good morning, everyone. We are going to be discussing today the gross domestic product. We started already introducing the topic last lecture, and we started discussing the components of the GDP. Very quickly, I'm going to walk you through the intended learning outcomes of this chapter, which are the key takeaways that we're going to be discussing for this theme. We're going to be identifying the components of the gross domestic product, assessing how we measure the gross domestic product, okay? Looking at the circular flow of the GDP or the gross domestic product, and you are going to be playing roles, each and every one of you, or maybe in groups or zones, of how you can interact and be stakeholders in the economy, okay? Through being households, firms, factor markets, good markets, and the government, and many other interactions you're going to be doing in the economy. We are going to also, as we discuss the components of the GDP, we looked at the difference between what's a final good, and intermediate good, okay? We also, that's why we're going to be, this will pour into what we should know about the GDP. We're going to be looking at computing the expenditure and the income approaches for the GDP, which is that's why we do the circular flow in first place. And we're going to be contrasting between real and nominal GDPs and doing some calculations with respect to that, but that's going to be for next lecture. Okay, we have already discussed the meaning of the GDP as a definition, which is the market value of total final goods and services produced within the boundaries of a country during a specific year, okay? And actually, I wanted to ask you, we already have gone through this definition. Of course, those are the components, which is market value, final goods and services produced within a country in a given time period. We have already done this slide. This is a quick recap. However, we also differentiated between what's a final good and an intermediate good. So who would like to tell me what's the difference between a final good and an intermediate good, and give me an example, provide an example? Okay, Ziad, go ahead, please.
A final good is the end product.
Okay.
For example, it could be a car.
Yes.
An intermediate good is a component used in the final product. For example, the tire of the car is an intermediate product.
Very good. The tire of the car is an intermediate because it's used as a component to produce the car, and then you sell it and you get the market value of the car at the end of the day. However, what I want you to ask, what if you have like a retailer or a supplier of tires by itself? So he's supplying only tires without the car. In this case, could the tire be considered as a final good? Okay, so sometimes it depends on the definition. If you're using this tire or you're using another good as a component of the final good, it's an intermediate. However, if you use it as a final good and you just presenting to the end customers and you sell it, and then you take in return the market price, this is considered a final good. Okay, right. So here, that's why I wanted to recap with some questions on the Nearpod. So on this exercise, or what should be included and what should be excluded from the GDP. So if you can kindly go, which of the following would be included in the GDP, and answer this question. You have the code, this is of course the Nearpod, and you are used to it anyway, and the code is FHUEZ CAPEX. Okay, so please, if you can go and enter your code as a student and try to participate in this activity. So the question here is saying, which of the following would be included in the GDP? Okay, Mustafa, of course, if you can't connect another thing I'd like to tell you, please do contribute. If you cannot connect via online, what you can do is you can directly contribute and share your opinions, and you can discuss with us. Okay, that would be highly appreciated. Okay. So if you can just answer it, and we have many other things and activities to go. Okay? So we had 4 choices. Let's read them together and see the final answers. Goods that are produced by foreign companies within the domestic borders of a nation. This is one option. The second one, goods that are produced and sold illegally. Okay? The third one, goods that are not final. Okay? And sales of used goods. Okay, let's see. Everyone, you all voted or you all chose in the poll now? Yeah? So let's go to the interface. Okay. Very good. So most of you have already added some of you, of course, with little discrepancies, they have added other options, but most of you have added the first choice, which is the choice of goods that are produced within the foreign companies, by foreign companies within the domestic borders of a nation. This is the correct choice. Why I'm going to exclude and eliminate all the others and tell you why this is the correct choice, okay? Because if we look at sales of used goods are never considered to be in the GDP, because anything that is vintage or reused, it's second-hand. So you haven't sold it today and got a final market price for it. So it's not considered as a final and good that is produced today, because we said it has to be produced within a year, not used, okay? So this is an option that can't work. Goods that are not final, we said if they're not final, then they are intermediate, right? So they cannot be, it can't be the case. Goods that are produced and sold illegally, what do you think? It's impossible. Why? Because why? Why, Sarah, is it impossible?
Because you can't sell anything illegal. You should have the illegal choice, so you can sell the thing.
Exactly. Usually as well, I want to tell you as well, if it's illegal, it doesn't enter in first place in the GDP. So this is one of the big reasons. Anything like trafficking, that we have in economies what we call, I want you to know this term because it's important, the underground economy, which is formed of many activities or goods that are produced, but they are illegal. They do not enter into the GDP, like drug trafficking, anything that evades taxes. If you don't pay your taxes and you're not registered as a final good or service, doesn't enter into GDP. So this is illegal activity, okay? Or illegal final goods and services. And so all those we have eliminated it. So by, of course, default, we will find that goods that are produced by foreign companies within domestic borders of a nation is what really represents the clear and true definition of the GDP. Let's go to the next one. Okay, what about this one? I'll give you 1 minute to just choose the correct answer, and then we are going to recap on it and see if we have all done it correctly or not. Please, if you're done, let me know. Yeah? Okay. So most of the students, I need more participation, more involvement of the people. People are still thinking? You finished already? Yes, all of you? Okay. What do you think? Which one is the correct one? Mustafa, yes. A. Why Mustafa are the others eliminated from first choice when you look at them?
Actually, because it is making a product that sunglasses, the rest of the answers, maybe number B, helps cleaning your cousins, so it's not a country product,
Yes, it's not, we wish things like that would have been accounting, taking care of the kids, maybe cooking a meal would be accounting in the GDP, but those are activities that are absolutely out of the GDP. They're not accounted for, right? Maybe as well, charity and social services, they are not included in the GDP. There are many things if you think about it. And that's bring us to, I'm just going to look at most of your answers and we see if we have managed to, okay, thank you. This time we managed all to get the correct answer, because we know that most of the things here are reselling. If Megan resells the book she received as a gift as well. If you think about a gift, you get a gift and you don't give a money value in return, right? A market money value. So at the end, this is not something that we could include in the expenditure or the cycle for the GDP. If we think about, that's why the GDP as a measure. What do you think? How do you assess it as a measure? And this will bring us to the next collaborative board that we want to recap on as well. And we need to understand this concept well. Just give it the time to load. Okay. Yeah. So does the GDP account for everything? Let's say, I mean, we know that the GDP, we've taken it, or we know that it accounts for economic growth and activity. And we've taken previously, correct, with the production possibility frontier, that economic growth is an important topic and an important indicator for us, okay? And that we are going to sacrifice some current resources in order to grow in the future so that we can achieve economic growth. However, think of all activities and concepts that are not counted in the GDP. Are there important things? Is the GDP the best efficient and effective indicator in the world? Or it just misses on a lot of things that we should be taking care of? What do you think? You can put here. What does the GDP, what doesn't it account for? It doesn't account for very important things in our lives. For instance, I've said, look, if we are going to be looking at this website, which is looking at what we call the concept of gross national happiness. So think about gross national happiness. Does the GDP account for our happiness, our well-being, for instance? So, and think now, you can think of many things that maybe are not included in the GDP. Okay? So I'm waiting for your suggestions or ideas here, contributions. It's taking time to load? Okay, it's okay. This is always with the online activities. It happens. Oops. Okay, getting back again. Don't worry. Even if you cannot access it or it's taking time, we can as well. I mean, if we can't access it, you can tell me. You can contribute by discussing with me. So what do you think does not the GDP include? This is my question here. So Yusuf said it gives information about the size of the economy and how an economy is performing. Yes, exactly, Yusuf. This is what it does. But what doesn't it do? Voluntary work. Yeah, so if you're doing some Mazen, thank you. If you're doing some social or some charity and voluntary work, like helping people in, for instance, many situations, helping them in an orphanage or going to a house of elderly and trying to help them and provide services and goods for them, see their needs. This is something that is not included in the GDP, for instance. Very good idea. Thank you, Mazen. Yes, because it measures final goods and services. Yeah, that's true. But I'm saying, what is the other aspect that it doesn't include? It doesn't, definitely, it's not the most inclusive measure in the world. You know what I mean, Sarah? So what other thing doesn't it include? Thank you, Sarah. Zena, some stores sell second-hand items. However, they do not affect the GDP as they are used goods. Yes, so you are repeating that used goods are not included. So you see, this is a good market, and we should be including or doing another or a parallel indicator, right, for this, okay? Thank you, Zena. Okay, I'm trying to... Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Nurhan, the sales of used goods made outside the borders and illegal goods and services. Exactly, trafficking things and so on. Okay, Nuran, right? Exactly, this is something that is not included in the GDP. Thank you very much. Mustafa says includes activity between businesses, sales of goods and services, but what it excludes is the illegal activities, intermediates and transfer payments, okay? Well, transfer payments, we're going to look into another measure in a while called the GNP, Gross National Product. This is where transfer payments, if you, as for instance, as an Egyptian, you are producing abroad, you transfer payments, receipts of payments to your country, this is included in the GNP, not the GDP. And if you have a foreign company, like for instance, let's say any multinational, like Cemex, and they want to transfer payments abroad, this is also deducted from the GDP to get the GNP. So those both are, we're going to see it in the exercise in a while. So this is a good point, okay? Right? Perfect, thank you. Who else? Ziad. It counts for all the output generated within the borders of a country, but several things are excluded. What? Thank you so much, Maya. I mean, Ziad is correct. You said the correct definition, especially for the illegal. This is the right thing. But I like Maya's, contribution very much. Where is Maya? Okay. So Maya, it doesn't account for our human health, right? We can see our mental health, for instance. Do we see it as an indicator or a measure in the GDP? No, okay? And the environment. It doesn't include all the environmental indicators that we need to measure, whether we have pollution, whether we have high carbon dioxide emissions and a high carbon footprint. I mean, those are things that are not accounted for, and we need other indicators to reflect whether we have well-being, we're living with a quality life or not, okay? In a great sense. Very good contribution, Maya, thank you. Okay. Yes, okay, Abdul Hamid, it gives analyzed data about how the economy positioning and status is. I do agree with you as well. Education services provided by the government is included. Ilham says that, they're all correct things that are in the GDP. I wanted more of the illegal stuff, the things that are not accounted, like services like cooking a meal, like things that we don't include in the GDP. Yes, please, Adham, go ahead.
Businesses run from home that don't pay taxes or aren't registered, so the government doesn't know anything about it, thus they don't profit from the government does not profit from the business.
Exactly. This is one thing. If you have businesses that are just like online social media businesses that are not registered, most of them now are registered and they take a taxation Adham, but if this existed before, and it's not counted, so you cannot say it's counted for in the GDP, right? So this is something, this is an aspect, a good suggestion as well, and it happens, right? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So Yusuf also introduced again. Ahmad Magdi says illegal activities and services, that happens. Okay, and Ilham, already we have read your definition. Okay, and you said the illegal things or things that are outside the border and we are not aware of. It doesn't count the non-market goods. What do you mean, Jana? Explain to me, please. Jana? Yes. Okay. Non-market, you mean the things that do not have a market value? This is what you mean? Okay. It could be, right? But this is not like we know if we don't have a market value, then we cannot count it in first place, right? So in a sense, I understand what you mean, but we are saying about things that are different, Jana, in a sense, things that are not, that something like illegal, something like a service that you do in your home and you do not put it as charity, indicators that could measure your well-being, your leisure time. You need to sleep. If you need to sleep, is this, your sleep time and how this leads to you being productive and your mental health, is this counted in the GDP or not? We mean things like that. Yes, now you understand the concept, correct? Okay, drugs. Thank you, Abdul Hamid. This is an important concept. It's not counted in the GDP, exactly. It excludes, so most of us, we have got the concept and we know what is the correct concept. Sarah says the same about illegal activity as well. So this is more or less, what we wanted to recap on. Okay, so now as we understand basically what's the GDP and its components and what should be measured in the GDP or excluded or what we exclude, we are going to be moving into the circular flow of expenditure and income for the GDP. And by this, when we say that, we have to play a role, each and every one of us, in the economy in order to understand it. So here, I'm going to be giving you, distributing, first of all, you as zones. So if we can, for instance, let's say this group will be firms. Okay, you're going to be the firms. Okay, and here you're going to be the factors market. Okay, you're going to be the households, and you're going to be the goods market. Okay, you're going to be a very powerful here entity, which is the government, and you're going to be the rest of the world. So I mean, we are divided into 6 zones by coincidence today, and we intended to have the activity like that. As well, we're going to also, if we can, distribute as well the circular flow. So here, this is meant for you. You're not going to give me this, but it's for you as you go on and you start discussing. Of course, you're allowed to discuss together with, I mean, the lowest voices possible. You're allowed to discuss together exactly what each, I mean, 2 functions for each group or each zone. For instance, firms. What are firms supposed to do? What is the role of firms? So this is what I want you to discuss together in 2-3 minutes, and then to write 2 sentences about the firms on the Nearpod. We have the answers to be added on the Nearpod. For instance, here you are the factors market. So what are you supposed to do? What is your function and your role? Take care. The factors market is where we get the factors of production, resources. So I know you all knew before because we already discussed factors of production, okay? So this is, you have to tell me 2 functions that you do. And how you are related. Are you related to those guys, to this zone? And then after that, you are the households. You are lucky because definitely you are related to everyone. Of course, this is a circular flow at the end of the day. But what do you do? Okay, and what do you offer as well? You know, what's your functions? What do you do? And what do you get? What do you get? And what do you offer? Okay, I'll be helping you, don't worry. And your group is the goods market, so you have all the goods and services possible in the world. You're the government, definitely you have a function and a role here to play. Okay. We're going to see this. I mean, this is a good start that you started doing the cycle already, but let's see it in detail here. And first, think about who starts this cycle. This is the most important thing, maybe. Okay, and why? This is the reason why as well. And here for you, it's the rest of the world. Rest of the world meaning you have to interact with other countries. And we said, remember in the production possibilities frontier chapter, that one of the things that leads to economic growth, we said capital accumulation. What was the second? Labor, increasing labor and capital. Okay. What?
Entrepreneurship.
Yes, and remember when we have a very good advanced economy, what was that called? They are applying technology. Okay, and the third one was trade, if you remember. So you are the traders here. So when you trade, what's your trading activity? If you want to go online and try to see how do you trade, I mean, this would be a good thing. Suggestions for trading, how do you trade? That would be a good thing. So when we trade, what do? Yes, and the other thing? Exactly. So you have to tell, so that's your interaction here as well, okay?
What are we supposed to do here?
We are supposed, as we go on and decide who starts, you're supposed to see the flow and the cycle, how it's going to be working. Okay? Yes. Yes.
Is households, does it have to be houses or just
Households are,
lands, buildings?
yes,
Does it have to be
households
a house,
act,
right?
you're acting as households in everything.
I own
You
the
are
land
the
that I have.
factors, you are as well, and you get, after that, when you,
We get rent.
they buy and sell, of course. Maybe they sell they offer their services and they offer their land and their capital, and at the same time they have to buy.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. But focus on them as buying, because at the end you go to the market and you buy, right? Okay? So I'm going to put you just the graph that you have here, and this is the, this is the flow we have given, and you're going to start connecting and predicting what are the relationships right now. Okay? Okay? When you're ready, please let me know. You need a few minutes or something? Preferably, if you can establish at least relations with your nearest, contact. You're going to be your nearest stakeholder you're going to be contacting directly. Yes, that would be very much preferable. Of course.
It's a bit complicated. Can you explain what should I do?
Well, what was your role here is the factors market, yes, right? So you're the factors market, you're the market that has all the resources. Who will need your factors in order to produce? Think about it in this way.
I thought I had to write what the firms do and what the households do. I thought I had
to
write households sell and the firms buy the services of labor capital and not the
yes, so who will need your factors of production?
Firms.
Exactly. So now you're getting, you're starting to put the pivot here where it starts from. So firms definitely will need to borrow those factors of production in order to produce. And think about if this is a cycle that goes on and never stops. You got it, huh? So you can even, if you want Nadine to write some, action that happens between here and here, this is a possibility. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Can we please discuss it? Yes, Yusuf, I would highly appreciate if you say it in English. So here, we start by, yes, you can connect, but as well, what you have to do is you have already your functions, right, as the factors market. So the next step is that you're going to be starting to connect from the firms, and if you see the firm as a starting point, maybe you see the households as a starting point, okay, depending where you want to start from. And you see how the firms relate to the next stage, which is the factors market, how the factors market relates to households, and so forth. Okay? Do we all understand the concept that we're trying to relate between all this cycle? Yes? Ziad? You can write it. If you want to prepare it as a draft here and you write it, I'll be opening the slot for the Nearpod right now where you can write. But please, I'd like you to say, so here, this is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, and zone 6, okay? So you're right, we are number 1 and we are, let's say, the firms. We are number 2 and we are the factors market. When you write on the Nearpod, so that I know who is the participation and contribution from. Okay? Of course, this will not work now here, but you know, of course, how you understand the cycle and the flow for now. We're going to, because as we need to move to the Nearpod, back and forth between the slides and the Nearpod, that's why I had to erase it, okay? So here, what is your role in the GDP circular flow? Okay, this is the functions that we just said. The other thing, add your group as you are in one of the 6 zones, which are the firms, factors market, households, goods market, government, and the rest of the world. Okay? When you're ready, you can just start contributing, and we start discussing. And it's good that you say also, and we indicate who is the starting point. Excuse me? You can, if you want, this cycle, Yusuf, is for you. This will remain for you and you can study from it. You know, you do not have to give me this. Whatever you have to the key takeaway that you have to put for me is here. Okay, I mean, so that we link them together or relate them like a puzzle, like bits and pieces, and we relate it together at the end, how it works. I like here that you have two ways mutual, response, reciprocity between the firms and the goods market. And it works like that, by the way.
I know.
Yeah. You studied it, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Good that you, I appreciate, Nadine, your preparation for the theme. Very much. It fell at the very back, your pen. Are we ready? Should we start just, okay. So we have zone 2 already that started to contribute. Zone 2, I believe you're the factors market. And you said enable the allocation of factors of production such as labor, land, capital to their most efficient uses. Right. Very good. This is exactly one of your roles and functions. And also, if you are going to enable them and efficiently use them, then who will you interact with directly? Who are the stakeholders you'll be interacting with? You'll be lending your services to whom? In other means? For firms, right? Because firms will need your labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurships. Firms. You don't want to put it here?
It doesn't want.
Okay, yes, of course you can say it. You're allowed to say it.
Firms
Yes?
organize the factors of goods and services.
Yes, raise your voice, Sarah.
Also, firms, in firms, government apply taxes.
Okay, very good point. But remind me of taxes because you're going to see it's not part of the flow. So you raise this point. It's a very important. Thank you so much for raising it. And what else?
It exports goods.
Okay. Firms exports goods, so you're related to who?
To the
Rest of the world, right?
Yes.
So firms as well is related to the rest of the world because firms, yes, they produce a final good, but as well they have exports and imports at one point. Yes. Excuse me? They import raw material and some inputs. Exactly, Abdul Hamid. This is very true.
Also,
Yes.
firms with competitors, they have to set prices and achieve
Okay.
the higher, it achieves higher profit.
Oh, of course. One of their purpose, and we said so, is profitability, to make higher profits. And this is one of the things we said in supply as well, right? Okay, very good. Right. I want to tell you as well, firms, okay, if we look at firms, let's see the rest, and I'll tell you something else that you need to add for firms. But those are the main functions. I do agree with you very much, okay? Ziyad, group 4, which is the goods market. So Ziyad just added for us that it's not very evident. Where it? No, it doesn't work, my dear. The mouse is, yeah. Okay, so here, the households, okay, so you're saying that in the market you have direct contact with the households, right? Because they supply the goods market. Well, actually, the households are the ones that are more in need of your goods market because what happens that households go and buy their goods and services from the goods market. So I mean, but I know what you mean. They supply in terms that they go in firms, they produce, and firms will supply the good markets with the final goods. Okay? So I mean, you try to place it, so households supply to the goods market, and the goods market start to function by selling in firms, okay? Yes, they sell, actually, you are right that the goods market sell to firms, because really what happens, if you're going to look at the relationship here, if you look here, and I'm just going to put it on the slide, current slide mode, so that it's a little bit clearer. So if we look here, there is a reciprocal relationship between the firms and the goods market here, where actually firms will go get their inputs and get some of their inputs and some of the resources, raw materials they need to produce with in order to produce the final good. So of course they have a need for this market, of course, the goods market. Very good. Thank you, Ziad. And by the way, they are going to return it when we're going to see the flow again. I wish I could just do like this all the time. Okay, so here, if we see, there is this relationship where goods market provide firms with the raw material, and then they return finished goods. This is part.
I've mentioned it also in the paragraph. I said that firms will also sell back to the goods and market.
Very good. So you mentioned the reciprocal relationship by itself. So let's go. I'm going to go back to your Nearpod and see the rest of your comment. Okay. Yes. Perfect. So this is what you said, Ziad. Actually, that as well, the firms, they sell their products back to the goods market in addition to the government and rest of the world interferences. You mean that the rest of the world in exports and imports are going to be interrelated to firms, and we as households, if you are the goods market, you might have some of the imported or exported goods that are supplied in the goods market as well, right? So then this could be a case, okay, and especially by firms. So let's look here at who else interacted. Other interactions, which is good. Yes, we're going to look at the second zone, please. So Yusuf said about the firms, Yusuf Karim, okay? You were the one that said about the firms, that business firms purchase resources and production factors needed to produce goods and services. Right, okay, exactly. And they go to the factors market. You're related to the factors market, you're related to the rest of the world, because firms could be exporting goods and importing raw material as well. So you are related with the guys here in zone 6, okay? Very good. What else? Okay, Mustafa said that now you spoke about the government. So you said that the government represent consumption, expenditure, gross investment. Government, they spend on money, infrastructure, payroll. Thank you very much. This is an important thing, Mustafa, that usually governments, they undertake a lot of expenditure because they are maybe constructing a public school or a public hospital. They do infrastructural development. They feed the army. So they need, where do you need them to interact with? Which are the markets that you need to go through?
Maybe you can interact with the firms.
You need to go to the firms, buy from them some of the, especially wholesale firms and big firms, to buy some material. Adham, you wanted to say something.
The market, the goods market and the international market.
You go to the international market because firms export and import, so interact with the rest of the world. You see, many people resort to you, okay, rest of the world. Right, exactly. So this is the government here is called, when we look at the government and their interaction, so this is called the G, or the government expenditure. I want to ask you something. Sarah raised a very important, you were the one to raise taxes, right? If the government taxes people, do you think this should enter in the gross domestic product or not?
Yes.
Yes, sure. Okay, other opinions? No one is against that it doesn't enter? You don't have counter opinions? Or Ziad wants to say something, but he's not so sure about it.
Yes, in the
Okay.
GDP.
It enters in the GDP. Why?
Because when the people pay taxes to the government, it make the hospitals and make it to the armies, something like that.
Okay, I do agree with you. Abdul Hamid, you want to say something, but I'll tell you something about this. Yes, in a minute.
Total income of the country.
It raises total income that could be used by the government and which is used for public expenditure. Yeah, but not on the spot, because when you look at all what enters in the GDP, it has to be a final good and a service given to you in return for a money market value. So you don't get it on the spot. So usually what happens, taxes, we're going to find they are not going to be, included in the GDP. They're going to be considered a leakage from the GDP. We're going for taxes when we are going to calculate the GDP. Okay, what else? Who else? Zone 6, okay, producing elements and goods in the at home country, and we export the final goods. Exactly. You have to know you deal with, who do you deal with? Yes, of course, you are the rest of the world, but you deal with other people here, with other zones. Which zones, Maya, do you deal with? Factors markets, okay, you deal with the, as well, the goods markets, exactly, because you can offer goods as well, right? That will be oriented to exports at the end. Okay? Is there any zone we didn't cover yet? Tell me, please, if there are some zones we didn't cover yet, and then we're going to sum them up all together. Okay?
Did we talk about the households?
We didn't talk that much about the households. Maybe Zaina and Ilham can tell us a little bit about them. Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you, Mustafa. Yes. Yes, tell us about them, Zaina and Ilham. I'd like to hear from you. And Nuran, whoever wants to.
You have a relation between market, goods market, because we buy groceries, like whether it's groceries or furniture.
Yes.
And also services like car wash and cleaning service.
By exactly, car wash, you said, and services and goods.
Products and services, so you have a relation between goods market and households. Government also take taxes from us.
Can you raise your voice a little bit?
Government take taxes from households.
Okay.
Factor markets like real estate, they have to market land and houses,
Mm-hmm.
so they profit off of it as well.
Okay.
Firms, like labor, people who work in companies. Firms give us income when they buy our land or rental.
Very good. Because you are the factors and you are the households at the same time. You act like, I mean, households in a sense and factors, you can say they are the same things. Because households are the ones that have the land, the capital, the labor, they are the entrepreneurs, and they go at the end of the day and spend, right? When they take their wages. And you said a very important point, and this is going to be a main determinant between how we calculate GDP by expenditure and income approach, which is the taxes. It's a difference between them. By the way, do not, by any mean, when we say household, we mean consumption. So by any means, never underestimate the role of consumption in the economy. This is the biggest component of expenditure in the economy, is consumption. We say it's the big C in the economy. And here we have the G. And firms, we said firms, I was very fond of Ziad's description or the reciprocal relationship, and also Nadine had it, and she has shown that she has grasped already the mutual relation between firms and the goods market. Okay, so this is as well is the investments, the big I. And then we have the rest of the world, which is the, by the way, this is how we put exports, which are the X, it denotes the X, are denoting exports and imports, okay? So here we look at what we call net exports or exports minus imports, okay? Let us now go to the flow and try, as we have all played very good roles and we understand how we are more or less connected to each other, let us go back to the slides and try now to connect the dots, as we say, okay? Or connect between the different stakeholders in the economy. So if we look here, I'm going to start, do you think who's the starting point? Firms. At this point, maybe the cycle goes on. I'm not saying that there is any special place for the cycle, but the starting point will be the firms. So here, if we start with the firms, firms are the one that produce, okay? And they are the one that ask the factor markets for their factors of production. They borrow factors of production. What would they give them in return? What do you think would they give them? If they ask me to give them their service, okay, so I give them my service, I give them my work, my physical effort, my knowledge, my skills. What do they ask me in return? What are the returns to the factors?
Money.
Wages.
Wages is one of them, Mustafa. What else?
Rent,
Rent, okay.
profit,
Profit,
interest.
interest. But here I'm going to tell you that there are two types of profits usually. Maybe you have studied already this concept in business, that we have what we call proprietor profit and we have what we call corporate profit. Corporate profit is the profit of the managers and the management team. Meanwhile, proprietor is the owner of the business, because sometimes the owner doesn't manage. So there is profit sharing for the owner, okay? So we have two types of profits at the end of the day. So this is the remuneration for the factors of production. Then those factors of production, which are supposed to be people, normal people, individuals that have families and that go and spend their money, at the end of the day act as households, right? So they go and do what? Spend their money, okay? Take care here. When we are looking at those items which are the W plus R plus I plus, if we have a double profit, this is what we call the income side of calculating the GDP. So we can add all incomes in the economy and get the final gross domestic product. This is an approach. And we've put it with a blue color because to differentiate from the other side, rest of the cycle that's coming up right now. Okay? Then if we continue from the households, when households are happy with their incomes, we got our income at the end of the month. So what are we supposed to do? We're happy. Okay? Yes, Ziad.
Go to the goods market and buy products.
Directly, we go and consume. This is a problem, right? Okay, so we go to the goods market and we start consuming with a big C like that. And this is, by the way, this is an important element in the economy. It's a dynamo of growth. If consumption, confidence in the markets and consumers start not consuming and spending, we start worrying. Economists start worrying very much. Okay, and they start to stimulate and prompt consumption so that they return and restore confidence in the economy. Okay? And then after that, they go to the goods market where they can consume from the goods market, right? Whereas we have as well here firms. And firms have a very interesting mutual relationship with the goods market, right? Where firms actually get their inputs, raw material that they need and capital, and they just process everything and get us back the final goods or bring back the final goods in the goods market, okay? And this is called, part of it is called investment. It's the big I. So see, here if we're going to say expenditure, we are going to just add the C as the first item. What's the second item that I should include here? What do you think? The I. Okay. Another thing I would like to just mention about this peculiar relationship between the firms and the goods market, which is the following. Do firms sell all their goods and services? Do they offer them all in the market? They don't keep anything. If you just get raw material and you start processing and selling goods and services, do you offer them all in the market or you keep a little bit, part of them in your stores?
Keep a little bit
which is what is this called? You're keeping? Let's say you're stocking some goods. What is this called when you assess it in your business plan? What is this called? Stock of goods that you keep in your stores and you do not sell. You keep it in your storage area. What is it called? Do you remember this from maybe studying it in business? I think you might have just fell upon this term before or known this term before. Okay? They are never going to sell at 100% everything. They're always going to keep, just in case, some yes, please say it. Do not hesitate. Inventory, right? So firms they do not sell everything. They keep inventory as well, okay? Just in case. So inventory is considered, by the way, when we assess our inventory, because we should have records for our businesses and firms, it's part of the GDP. The inventory that is produced during this same year, this year, is part of our GDP as well, okay? It's not only the final goods that or the final investments that firms provide. Okay, as well, governments. What governments, what did you tell me? What did you say? Governments. What did you do? Did you consume as well?
Yeah,
okay.
By buying goods and services from the firms.
From the firms, this is one thing, and you can go directly to the goods market.
Yeah.
Because you need, if you have an army or you have people that you need to, individuals that you need to provide goods and services to, you need to also approach them and buy them their goods and services. You need to also buy capital and just perform or conduct your infrastructural projects and your investments, maybe build parks and public hospitals and schools for the people that need to have them in the country, okay, or the economy. So this is all the function and role of the government. Yes, of course.
So actually the government makes the public hospitals by paying taxes or what?
It does that, but it's not, the return doesn't happen at the same time, meaning the government, when it does that, it contributes that. And maybe, yes, that you paid this as part of your wages before, but it's not a direct, something that you can record in, fine-tune and record on the same year basis, you know. Yeah. That's why we say government, the taxes are considered leakages.
From where does the government get those money?
From taxes, of course, yes, part of it from taxes. So taxes is an important part, revenue for the government, I do agree with you. But if for the accounting basis for calculating the GDP, it doesn't go into the flow of the GDP directly. It goes indirectly, that's why. But when you come to here, add it, it's already included in here, that's why. Maybe, okay. Maybe it's not included in the other thing which we are going to be seeing, the other fine-tuning we're going to be seeing, okay? Right. The other thing is, the last thing is the rest of the world, where the rest of the world are going to interact and they're going to consume and interact with the firms as well, correct? So here we're going to include them as exports minus imports, okay? So here, at the end of the day, what we're trying to say that this income approach should be equal this expenditure approach. So when we just add up all the expenditure done by consumers, investment, government, and the rest of the world, it should be equivalent to all incomes when they are added together to calculate the GDP. However, there is a difference. One of the differences is what we have, the argument we have or the debate we have with respect to taxes. So here, note when you take your wages here, what happens? Do you take your wages? Do you take gross wages or a very big amount of your wages, or you take it as a net value or figure as a net? It means that we have deducted from it already, if this is your W, we have already excluded from it taxes. Thank you very much. And we have also included, okay, the benefits, because sometimes there are some people that governments as well, and this is part of the government's job, that they spend on unemployment benefits and social benefits they give to people, okay? Welfare benefits, for instance, unemployment benefits. So at the end of the day, we have to, or subsidies, they give firms, sometimes they give firms some subsidies. So you have to know that all of the elements here in the income is at factory prices, meaning we are looking at costs of production. So that's why, okay, we are looking at costs of production. So that's why this is not equal to this at the end of the day. We have to have some fine tuning that we have to do here. We have to add back taxes. This is one thing. If we have, subsidies, is anyone familiar with the term subsidies? What is a subsidy? Maybe?
It's like, we took it in business, I think, for
Yeah.
direct investment and subsidies.
Yes, subsidy is when you give a certain incentive, so for some sectors when they perform or they produce in some areas and so on. So this is a subsidy, okay? So they produce, let's say in the south of Egypt, we have some regions that we want to encourage and promote production in. So this, you give them a subsidy to produce, you encourage them. So this is, it's a financial incentive in a sense. Okay, so this is a subsidy. So that's why here we have to add it because it has already been deducted. Okay, so those are the two things that we should adjust. We should add back the taxes to the wages. We should maybe subtract subsidies from all this figure from the GDP by the income in order so that we have the same figure here. Okay? So at the end of the day, let's go back quickly to the slides. And first of all, I'd like to show you the circular flow. And we're going to get very quickly back to the slides to see how we calculate both approaches. And we're going to continue on them next time maybe. But I'm going to give you an exercise right now to do. So this is first the circular flow. This is the income part of the flow and the expenditure part, as we said, and we need to equate them to make them equal with their components and parts as we have added them. Yes, we're going to take it in a minute. Thank you so much. Don't worry. Okay? Of course, this is what all we have been explaining so far, and this is the final circular flow. Any questions regarding this, first of all? Any questions? Okay. Right. Let's look now, if we look at it, this is the GDP by expenditure, which is consumption, investment, government, exports minus imports. Okay? And we know that by income, we have to add the factors of production, wages, interest, rent, and profit. Okay? Is that clear? Yes. I need to just leave those terms for next lecture. We're going to be dealing with them. But what I want to tell you, if we add up those, this is the expenditure approach, and I want you to try to do this exercise, which we're going to be distributing right now. If we have time to do it today, it's well and fine. If not, you're going to be taking it, looking at the elements and trying on it. There is some part we haven't yet fully elaborated on and explained in the income approach, which is how to settle for taxes and what's the employees' compensation and net operating income. Okay, we're going to do that next time, but I need you first to try, and then we're going to discuss it, because you have to practically try the exercise, and then we discuss it after that. So here there are some elements, if you can please give me one, where you have to do the expenditure approach and the income approach and separate between what do you use for the expenditure and income approach. I'll open the activity in front of you and we can try to do it a little bit. Okay, so here if you look at the expenditure approach elements, this is the personal consumption, gross private investment, the gross government expenditure, the net export and of goods and services, or exports minus imports. Okay, so those are straightforward calculations or addition of the elements for, this is the expenditure or income? Expenditure, right? Okay, and if we are going to look at the income approach, just try, we classify it into two parts. Compensation of employees, or employees' compensation, and net operating surplus, okay? Which is net operating income or surplus, okay? It's the same. Which is the same thing we said, by the way, but it's classified. Here it's the wages. When we say employees' compensation, this is the wages. It means the wages. And here it's the, okay, interest, rent, profit, and profit, okay? They are all combined together. What I want to tell you, try on it, and we are going to recap on this activity. Please come next class doing it, because we're going to just finish it and finalize and say the difference and how we can equate them next class. So you have to come being already solved that. Otherwise, I'd like to do a quick recap with you of what we've learned today. So what was the first thing we have learned about the components of the GDP? What else? Can you remember me? The difference between?
Final goods and intermediate.
Yes, thank you, Ziad. Very good. Yes?
Actually, we take the income and the
Expenditure approach and how to compute it. Yes, I know it's still new for you that that's normal. Yes?
The circular flow of the GDP.
The circular flow of the GDP. Any questions before we wrap up? Okay, do you need anything? Okay, thank you. Thank you.